Hi guys, it's Dave here, and today I wanted to do a bit of a tutorial really on another of the things I'm very passionate about, which is sound. I was a sound engineer for quite a long time. I was actually an audiovisual technician and project manager, but I did a lot of sound. And I also played in bands for many, many years, so I kind of over the years picked up lots of tips and actually lots of equipment on recording, and I've now kind of done the same with photography and video. But I wanted to talk about microphones today and just go through various types of microphones with you. Might be useful to you, might not, but you know, you never know. So here we go. As luck would have it, the first mic I wanted to talk about isn't this one, but this is a very close approximation. It's the Shure SM58, which is kind of the daddy of all general purpose do-it-all microphones. Actually a picture of it here because mine are actually in storage. I've got some other mics here, but I don't have the 58, which is unfortunate because it's really amazing all-rounder. Now, so this is, as I say, this is by the same company as Shure. This is a 2.1 BG. Similar, it's what's known as a dynamic microphone. So it's not wildly sensitive. Now the 58 that you saw in the picture, you'll have seen if you watch any live music, and bands in particular, generally speaking, it's the microphone that's provided for the singer by the sound company, and it will be usually on a band's rider. They'll ask for SM58s because they're tried and tested industry standard microphones that can be used for almost anything. They're really good for vocals because they're not wildly sensitive. All these microphones work on a kind of polar pattern, which is kind of almost like that sort of shape, and that is really the area of sensitivity for them. So if you imagine you're a singer in a band and you've got that in front of you in a band behind you, maybe some big speakers, drum kit, guitar amps, all that, you don't really want to pick up much of that. You want to hear it, you want to just mainly pick up the vocals, and they're really good for that. You can also use them to mic up bass drums. If you're miking up a drum kit, you can use them for kick drums, piano, almost anything. If you've got nothing else, this is the kind of sound engineer's go-to does-it-all microphone. They're also quite well known for, particularly for singers, for something called the proximity effect, which means if you get really close to them, it adds a really nice kind of bass presence to a vocal. So that's at the 58. Similar to that, one of my favourite microphones is the Shure, again, SM57. And it's a similar microphone, but you can see it's a lot narrower. It's got a much smaller capsule, which is the business end really. And that means it picks up very little of the background, very little apart from what's immediately in front of it. I'm a terrible singer, but I did used to do some backing vocals, oohs and ahs. So it's pretty important to me that I could get really close to it because that also means that you can hear yourself through the monitors a lot better. It's important for me because I'm pretty much tone deaf when it comes to singing, but I can get by with bits and pieces. So that common uses apart from vocals is again in multiple microphone situations, say like a drum kit. SM57s, because they have a smaller polar pattern, they're a lot less sensitive. They're commonly put right close to the skin on snare drums, tom-tom drums, that kind of thing, so they'll pick up very little apart from what's right in front of them. So when you're miking up a drum kit, you've usually got multiple microphones on it to pick up all the individual drums, and then when you're mixing you can kind of separate them. There's all sorts of things you can do to kind of separate the sound on each particular drum to build up an overall sound. Next along the line this is an AKG 451, one of my favourite microphones. This has kind of saved my life on a couple of occasions. These are very, very sensitive microphones. They're actually, they need external power, thing called phantom power, which you get on sound desks, and it basically is just a little switch which sends power, 48 volts, to the microphone. These are very, very sensitive microphones, but very transparent, so they don't really influence the sound, don't add anything to the sound apart from a really just nice, what's known as presence. So if you look at old films of the 70s, you'll see singers using these, and that's how you can tell that they're miming, things like Top of the Pops, because you just would never use a microphone like that in a live band situation because it would pick up everything and cause feedback in the speakers and everything. But if you want to mic up something like an acoustic guitar, beautiful, beautiful microphone because it will pick up all the nuances of the sound of the guitar, all of the different frequencies, and in a really just nice kind of way. records a really quite quiet acoustic instrument beautifully. That's kind of its main purpose. The time that I remember particularly that saved my life was during an event which was actually being televised for the G8 conference a few years ago, and it was a whole load of politicians and political commentators being recorded for the BBC, and we had them all on individual microphones, radio microphones, tie clips like this one I'll talk about in a minute, and they all went to a central kind of unit that controlled all these multiple microphones. But as a backup we had several of these, because you can actually unscrew the little capsule on these, and there's a really long stem kind of addition you can get for that sits on a stand on the floor. So we had all these guys sat on like bucket seats, you know, a sort of studio type setup where they were all kind of on a semicircle in these little kind of tub chairs with the radio mics. But like I say, radio mics didn't work, but we had two of these guys on the long stands just kind of in front of them, and they captured everything beautifully. We were just able to kind of boost the sound on them and save the day really. A real godsend. So lovely mics. This is a really old one. When I used to work for a sound company, when they were replacing microphones, these were up for grabs, so I grabbed two of these. And they're also really good again for a drum kit. Normally you would put one or two of these right above, quite far above, and just to catch an overall sound of cymbals, because cymbals are very, very, very loud in comparison to the rest of the kit. So you don't need to close mic them usually. Normally they're just done with these two overhead capture mics, and that would be something like this. So these are, and again, tie clip. The one that I'm actually using to record this is a little AudioTechnica tie clip mic called an CRC550. Great little mics. Tie clip, again, it uses power, but it's got its own self-contained power. There's a little battery that goes in there. A long cable, which actually goes into the DSLR that I'm filming this on. And then you've got the little capsule, which you can just clip onto a tie or a lapel. Really good microphones. With all of those mics, you really need a sound desk to use them as they are. If you want to use them into a laptop for any videos you're doing, ScreenFlow or any kind of video editing, iMovie, anything like that, if you want to record sound direct into a laptop or a computer, you need an external audio input device. Again, I'll put a picture here. I've just ordered one actually, because I'm going to do a lot more of that. I've got a big sound desk, but it's not practical for most things now. So this is a Focusrite 2i4, and that allows you to, it's just a USB connection into your laptop or your computer, and you can input any of the standard kind of microphones that I've just been through into that, and then that converts the sound into a USB signal that can be acceptable by a laptop or a computer. There's lots of mics you can get though that are purpose built for recording in computers. One I use is just this blue Snowball, and that's just similar to the SM58. It's a dynamic cardioid microphone. You can get one that's got various settings that you can change the sensitivity. For me, I just use this for my voice on Skype calls, or if I'm recording videos into ScreenFlow, or on webinars or Zoom conference calls, anything like that at all. I just use this, my go-to microphone, the blue Snowball. I just plug straight in, and most computers will recognise that. Certainly Macs, I only use Macs, and any program that I use on the Mac, whether that be Skype or GarageBand or ScreenFlow or Adobe Premiere Pro, iMovie, anything at all will just immediately recognise that through the USB connection, and they're really, really good microphones. So I hope that's kind of been useful to you. I don't know, the standard microphones, I guess it's useful to know how they work in case you ever find yourself in a live speaking event. You never know, could happen. So the 58 is probably what you'll be faced with, and you just know that you don't have to be right up close to them, but you don't want to be too far away from them. If there's a sound guy on hand, you can compensate to some extent. If you're at a lectern, you might have something like the 451, the much more sensitive microphones, and they sit in a lectern, and they're really designed to be spoken to at that kind of, so you can comfortably stand at a lectern without craning forward, because you'll just overload them if you get too close. So I hope that's been useful to you. Any questions, feel free to get in touch, and I'll see you in another video. Cheers for now, bye bye.